Hey, what's poppin' YouTube? It's Nine back again to talk about some pro Valorant today, and hopefully this video gets a lot of views because we're talking about Sentinels, baby. So today I'm gonna be covering a little bit of breaking news. If you guys already know, you probably already know that Sentinels have officially now dropped their head coach Sykko after today's loss against Leviathan in VCT Americas. Now it's currently midnight for me, but this news dropped a couple hours ago, only 4 or 5 hours I think after their loss to Leviathan. Rob Moore, who is the CEO of Sentinels, tweeted that they have made the difficult decision of dropping Sykko, and that Kaplan will be stepping in to the head coach position for Sentinels moving forward in VCT. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm gonna try and be brief if I can. Okay, so Sentinels, they played Leviathan today. They played a relatively close series on the first two maps. Their map pick split didn't necessarily go in their favor. Super close over time. They managed to steal away Ascent, and then they got demolished on Pearl. And Sentinels, you know, they're a very big, very popular team. It appears that the management couldn't accept taking these losses anymore. They have a brand to uphold, I guess you can say. And after 3 matches in VCT, they have dropped their head coach. Now, this is a great demonstration of very rash decision making coming from the head management. Like I said, they have a total of 3 VCT matches. They played 1 against 100 Thieves that they won. They played NRG last week, which they lost. And now they played against Leviathan, who they also lost to. So they are currently 1-2. Sure, it's not the best results, but at the end of the day, it's only been 3 matches. And now they've dropped their coach because they just can't take the losses anymore. 2 losses was enough for them, and now they think Sykko was the problem. They're definitely scapegoating him, and now Kaplan is stepping into that head coach position. So 3 matches, 16 days of results. Their first match was on April 1st. It is currently April 17th, man. Like, really? Not even 3 weeks? Like, honestly, this is reminding me, giving me flashbacks of last year when 100 Thieves signed Baby J and Eccles. Then, like, after 2 matches, they dropped both of them because they got 13-0'd by the guard. Remember the waves that was making in the community? That was hilarious at the time, of course. But this is giving the exact same energy. These teams are expecting to create these rosters, and within a really quick amount of time, they're expecting some amazing results out of the team. Like, honestly, all things considered, these results aren't that bad. So the question is, at this point, was Sykko the problem? And in my opinion, I really don't think he is. Now, of course, there is some blame that you could put on him as a coach, like his uses of timeouts have not been the greatest, I guess you can say, from watching the matches. Even after timeout, Sentinels don't always come back with the best and greatest ideas. They don't always fix their problems. And I don't know how much we can put on him, how much we put that on Def as the IGL, but we just can't know because we're not a part of the team, right? But what are some actual problems that I think are more pressing in why Sentinels have been struggling as a team? Number 1, we gotta start with Def IGLing. He's not the best IGL, let's just be real. Especially against Fnatic at lock-in, he really got exposed. Like, he was just getting outread by Boaster almost every single round. It felt like they couldn't get anything going on their attack sides, and their reads of the map, they always were pushing into the stacked bomb site, and it was rough to watch. But at the end of the day, that's Boaster, that's Fnatic, that's the rank 1 team in the world. Okay, we'll cut you some slack. You're playing the best team in the world. You're probably gonna get outread by Boaster as an IGL. But now, coming into VCT Americas, where they're not playing against that type of competition, but they're still playing some amazing teams, like no slack to, you know, NRG and Leviathan. They're not Fnatic, but they're still very strong teams, of course. But with this Sentinels team and the roster they've put together, we definitely expect better results. And I think as an IGL, Def hasn't been having the best reads. Even in that split game against Leviathan today, he had a couple of good reads actually on where his team should be taking space on the map, but we also see he fell back into some of the pitfalls of, not taking space where it's given, and, not pushing the bomb site with less players that's a little bit more open. But it's hard to read stuff like that. It's very hindsight for us to say he made the wrong call, but given the information he had, I'm sure he's trying to make his best decisions. But at the end of the day, I think his calling as an IGL has not been great, and those mid-game and mid-round adjustments when they're losing 3-4 rounds in a row, they haven't been great by him. Just look at that split game. They go up 7-5, then they lose 6 rounds in a row on defense. Like, come on, we just can't have that happen. And a couple of those were, of course, the Leviathan players hitting some crazy shots, but also Def not having the right reads as an IGL. So I think that's definitely a problem. Number 2, we have Sassy and Pancada on this team, 2 world champion Valorant players. Sassy, who was one of the best initiators in the world last year, and Pancada, arguably the best smokes player in the world last year. But neither of them are playing the roles that they won a world championship on. We have Sassy playing full-time smokes, and we have Pancada basically playing full-time Killjoy and Sentinel. Now, this is mostly because we've been seeing a little bit of a trend in NA where the IGL wants to be playing initiator now. Def, who used to play Sentinel, is now on that Sky initiator role, and we see something similar coming out of NRG where FNS has been playing initiator as well, and their initiator player Crashies has been moving on to other stuff. So Def, to be more comfortable at calling the team, he wants to be with the pack when they hit the bomb site, when they go for the executes, and it's easier to call from that initiator position. Makes sense, sure. But now that Pancada and Sassy are on roles that they had not played at the pro level before, we can see that they are not as comfortable, and they are not generating the same amount of value that they would be getting otherwise if they were playing their preferred roles. Pancada seems to be okay. He's been playing mostly that Killjoy, and he looks fine on it. He's no amazing Killjoy player, but he seems to be holding his own for the most part. But this is not what you want out of somebody like him, just holding his own. This is Pancada, the guy who's known to never miss a shot, Definitely we had bigger expectations for him. And Sassy, I think, is the one who's really struggling, especially in the Leviathan game today, man. Those Viper games were not pretty, dude. He's just struggling. He went like 3-12 in the first half of Split. He went 1-12 in like the first half of Pearl. It doesn't look good for him, man. He's really struggling to find the adjustment, and I don't blame him, dude. He's an initiator player. Just swapping to smokes is like a totally different role change, The tempo of the game, your positioning, and the way you view the game is pretty different. And I know that Sassy is a great player, and in time he could be a great smokes player, but if Sentinels want these super fast results after 3 matches, they need to be giving them more time. And I think Baby J, of all people, actually had a really good tweet explaining the situation. His tweet goes, "NA Valorant is wild. I feel the majority of decisions are made too fast for the effect they have on people's lives. The outcome never works out either. Winning teams take time to build. Shuffling players on different roles and expecting staff to develop them in short time is not it." Yeah, exactly. So I feel for Sykko. He has 2 amazing players, but because of like Def wanting to call better and be in that initiator position, we had to swap those 2, and now he's trying to make these players the best they can on roles that they're not comfortable on. That is a tough task for any coach and any sort of coaching staff. So I really don't blame him that, this team is not up to snuff after just 3 matches. And yeah, this whole Sassy Pancada role swaps has definitely been a problem for the team. Also, a problem that everybody loves to bring up is that, yes, TenZ has been underperforming. TenZ is the only person from the old OG Sentinels roster that made it to 2023 and stayed on the team. So obviously, management had a lot of faith in him as a player. Also, he's like the most popular player in Valorant. Of course, they didn't want to lose an asset like that. But overall, as a duelist player, I assume they still thought he could bring a lot of value and could still be that superstar player. But honestly, we have really yet to see that from TENS, and I know going into this Leviathan match, he had a finger injury, so we can cut him some slack. And of course, he has some things going on in his personal life that have been very public, so of course we can cut him a little bit of slack for that. But at the end of the day, this is your superstar duelist player. We need more out of him. And if we just look at his stats in the Leviathan game, across 3 maps, he had an impact rating of 0.72, which is the worst on the team. And then if we go into the NRG game, he had an impact rating of 0.48. He went 13 and 30 in that NRG game. That is a wild stat line coming out of your duelist player. That is tough. Like, of course, the team overall has not been performing well, but when you get into those close maps, like that Lotus game against NRG that they lost 13-10, and TENS is going 8 and 16, like his contribution, if he was getting a little bit more frags, that could have carried them over the finish line. So definitely, I don't think him underperforming is the main reason this team is losing, but it definitely is a contributing factor. It's all in Kaplan's hands now. People on Twitter have been saying that Sentinels are in good hands with Kaplan, and I really hope so. And I really hope he can turn around the ship for Sentinels, and hopefully they can start picking up more wins. And going into next week, Sentinels fans should feel pretty okay, because I think we have a pretty easy matchup. Let me just go check VLR real quick.